All right, we are live, back again. Good times, everyone. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your football Sunday with me. I know that's a sacrifice for a lot of you, but ROI-wise, it's at least been profitable for the last couple days. Yesterday especially was pretty sexy. At the end of the day, I counted 9 people who sent me, we're sorry, there's an error starting your broadcast. Hold on there, you're probably good, but something's going on, Periscope is pooping itself on my phone. Poop. Well, if we have to, we'll just stick it YouTube style. I'll retweet the YouTube from my account. Connection too poor. Alright, everyone now gets the exciting experience of watching me reboot my modem from my phone. Please stand by. Paul, if I could have some modem rebooting music, please. Do 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 What's very interesting is, now we're gonna give this one more try, but it's saying I have no internet connection on the Wi-Fi that is the same internet signal as the hard line that is apparently working to see this chat updating and has the YouTube stream going, so I don't even know. Let's try it again, though. After that, we're just going to give up and people are going to have to suck it up and do it through YouTube, I guess. Is the Periscope coming? Yeah. Alright, you get one more try, Periscope. Just one more try, because this is the last day I'm supposed to do this by Periscope. And then I'm going to full through the YouTube, through the Osmo accounts. Probably continue to do the recap shows through this, however. But, okay. Here we go. I give us one chance in 3. Here we go. Tapping the Go Live button. I have tapped the Go Live button, and people are showing up. So weird. Kawaisenberg waits to go this way. You are lazy, Kawaisenberg. Should follow the YouTube stream. Hey, everybody. Sorry about that brief technical delay. We've got 47 minutes to get going, but that should be enough time to talk about these 2 games, the news that is itself emerging, and continue in an attempt to make some money. Again, yesterday was obviously exceptional. Certainly not the best day I and my brood have ever had gross profit, because when you hit it hard during the regular season, there's just so much more money around, so people have had 6-digit days and dozens of 5-digit days. But there were no less than 9 people who sent me a screenshot that showed it showed at least a 40-to-1 return, which is crazy. And one guy, the best guy by far, was the person who entered one entry in the $4 tournament and won it. That was pretty sexy to see that come about. So we are back at it again. So 2 games on the slate. People are sort of got about 100 there. 100 times ROI, that was good. There was 100, an 86, an 85, an 80, a 75, a 70. There was, you can check my Twitter account. I retweeted all the ones except for the people who asked me not to, but there's 6 or 7 retweets I sent out that were 40 to 150. And we're just getting started then. You watched the same scope as then and you lost money. I said there was only a 20% chance of bronze hitting, so if you only played one lineup and put LeBron in it, yeah, that would have got you. But we were, ahead of the curve on Rondo definitely playing on. I correctly picked several hours in advance that Gallinari was going to sit. A couple of the other value plays. We just basically nutted it out. We're just starting. We're good. Let's get going. So 2 games tonight. First we have the Bucks and the Timberwolves, both of whom we have some news. Yeah, Brooks, Fade, Selden, also. There was all kinds of good stuff. I've patted myself on the back enough for one show, or at least for now, until we get through all the news. Second game is Jazz and Trailblazers. The second game is, in my opinion, entirely tournament plays. There are literally no players in the second game I would play in a cash lineup. If I was building a cash lineup, I would have 8 or 9 players from the first game. If I was building a tournament lineup, I would have T-1 or 2 players from the first game. It is superior in every way it can be superior. Starting from the beginning, number 1, it is much faster. It has an over-under roughly 17 points higher than the second game. and we like that. 2, it is the 2 teams for whom we can predict the most minute safety amongst players and know the most. I would rank it Minnesota by far the sexiest. Then Milwaukee would have barely been my number 2, but now with the 5 guys they've announced out, they're pretty clearly my number 2. And then Utah, I feel like I have a pretty good idea on. And then Portland, I'm going to make some guesses, and my guesses have been good so far this preseason, but I'll be clear that they will be guesses. So let's see. One was news and understanding and what's going on. And by extension of that would be the fact that we have news on the first 2 games. We basically know who is playing. We don't know who is playing in those last 2 games, both of whom have more games to come, so that makes the predictability a little bit harder. So certainly for cashy purposes and for even the majority of your lineups, I'm a much bigger fan of playing Bucks and Wolves than I am of playing Jazz and Blazers. Let me move a couple things around so I can try to view as many of the chat screens as possible, which is a hopeless quest, but we're going to do the best we can. Yes, premium chat you will get first time. Also, if I decipher Portland for you, you win all the money. Not necessarily. You know, before that Grizzlies game, before the news came out that Conley and Gasol weren't going to play at all, I basically said, I don't know if anyone here is going to be good. And after the news came out, I said, okay, Selden and maybe Jared Jones Jr., and only those 2, and Avon Robb would have been in any sort of decent lineup. And you need to realize that the Portland is playing against Utah tonight, or as I like to call them, the best defense on earth. So not only do we have, minutes issues and they want to run 17 guys again and all that shit, they're playing the Jazz, which isn't exactly exciting. So there's a real chance that even if I correctly decipher, like if I could sit Janet Jackson, if you're nasty, yes. Oh, Jaren Jackson, yeah. What did I call him? It's Triple J. I don't know what I called him, but if I mispronounced his name, Jaren Jackson Jr. Where was I? So you guys threw me off there. Even if I correctly deciphered the entirety, like if I could write down the Portland box score now, there's a chance no one in it would be in your winning lineup. I said Jaron Jones, I did. Okay, I know that's not his name, but you got me. I think I named him correctly yesterday, which was the relevant time. So the Bucks and the Wolves playing from the Hilton Coliseum in Ames, Iowa. I'm not shitting you. They're in Ames, Iowa. Unsurprisingly, this game will not be televised. The Bucks have 2 games after this one. They play the Thunder, and then they play the Wolves again. The Wolves only play the Bucks again. That's it. So they will finish up against each other, but the Bucks have a game against the Thunder in the interim. Not long ago, the Bucks announced that Ersan Ilyasova, Thon McCurr, Dellavedova, Wilson, and Duval will be out. I assume that means Sterling Brown will be returning to the rotation. They didn't specifically said that. Last game, they played 16 guys of the 17 healthy guys they had, and I'm not sure Jalen Morris was actually with the team. I have hot investigative reporter Co Eisenberg out there watching video, trying to figure out if Jalen Morris will be the 14th or 15th healthy guy on this team. But we can be a little more excited with the Bucks now, because before there was a real chance, without announcing several of these guys out for what is largely rest for a number of them, that we would have had sort of a minutes cluster on our hands. Now I have the starters currently, I have 4 of the 5 starters currently, I should say, projected for 22 to 25 minutes, and I feel okay with that. And against the Wolves in a pace-up game, and with how shitty that second game is, I still have a fair amount of interest in these guys. But I do have them all projected for usually like 4 or 5 minutes less than their rough counterparts on the Minnesota team. So on FanDuel, where it's limited, apparently on DK it's not limited in the preseason. I think you could play 8 Wolves if you wanted. Someone confirmed that for me. So I'm going to put 6 or 7 Wolves in a lineup and try and save it. I think it works. But on FanDuel, you can only play 5 Wolves. You should play 5 Wolves. Of my favorite 12 plays tonight, 9 are probably Timberwolves. Your late who's late scratches. So the Bucks again, I'm going to go back to the list just so I don't forget somebody, are sitting, I can't find the list. It's Ilyasova, Thon McCurr, Matthew Dellavedova, Wilson, and Duval. Derrick Rose is out for the Wolves, which is very interesting there. So the question is, what exactly will happen with this Bucks team? I have them still running the minutes pretty thin. I have the 4 non-Brook Lopez starters getting over 20 minutes, and I have Dante DiVincenzo coming off the bench. I think it's pronounced Thon McCurr is how his last name is pronounced. You can't full stack. Oh, that's a damn shame. But I think you can play like 6 on DK. But anyway, need 2 different teams is what it is. You can 7-1. You could play 7 Timberwolves. And I'll be surprised if the best lineup doesn't have 5 Timberwolves on it. But we'll get there in a second. Because I do still expect the Wolves rotation to be vastly superior to all the others. The Wolves basically ran a 10-man rotation last time. They played actually 13 or 14 players, but of those players, 2 of them played 2 minutes, 1 played 1, 1 played 6, something like that. Basically, they in the blowout at the end, or you get scant minutes, but especially with 2 games left for them, this one and one more. I expected them to run a 10-man rotation. At this point, I did not just condense it to 9, although that's not impossible. He may run 9 guys tonight. I believe the Rockets just played, I want to say 8 players. Give me a minute. I will check this. Oh, no, they brought in subs at the end. They ran 9 players because Gary Clark got a shift there. But the Rockets just ran, Paul, Harden, Tucker, getting 33 and 34 minutes apiece, which is very nice. Speaking of which, by the way, there was a nice 1-game slate today on FanDuel. That was a 5K guarantee that filled less than half. It took in $2,400 and paid out $5,000. And we noticed it, and that news was spread around the Osmo.com premium chat, and several people paid for quite a number of months of just based on that news. A lot of people, even if you went badly, we had a number of people who had Capella who got hurt, and DeJounte Murray who got hurt, but one guy in the Slack tied 7 ways for second place with himself, and several others were in the top 50. So that one tidbit of news was worth $1,000 to one guy and many hundreds of dollars to several other guys just for, sitting there and reading the chat. And for the rest of you, NFL Sundays, that can happen. And here's your cookie. There are showdown slates tonight at 9 o'clock for a shit game with Sunday Night Football going. Might be worth looking at. They don't always fill. So, yeah. So, again, Brogdon, Giannis, you can and probably should play in everything. Just because there's plenty of value and other guys are good. He's not quite a must. Neither is Towns quite a must. If they were the same price, I would barely prefer Karl Anthony Towns. I have him at slightly fewer fantasy points a minute in what's a good matchup. But I have him for enough minutes more that I would project Towns for more than Giannis. And some places he's a bit cheaper than Giannis, so you have to play one and be Towns. But if I built 100 lineups, I'm probably looking at something like 90 Towns and 80 Antetokounmpo or something. Middleton, Bledsoe, Brogdon, DiVincenzo, all make very... DiVincenzo can't be rookie there. He's not going to get enough minutes. I mean, if you get an injury to some of the guys on the wings, or if Brogdon and Antetokounmpo and Middleton get injured, yeah, I guess he's got a shot to pick up enough usage to do it. But even like one injury, I don't think he gets enough shots to possibly be that guy. Let's move on and talk about the Timberwolves. Again, if you look at the last game, I think Karl Anthony Towns led it with 29 minutes. Most of the other starters were looking in that mid to high 20s. And they run basically a 10-man rotation with direct ins for everybody. Teague goes out, Tyus Jones comes in. Rose goes out, Josh Okogie comes in, etc., etc. Towns goes out, Gorgie Jang goes in. They run a 10-man rotation. The news is Derrick Rose is out. What's going to happen here? A few things can happen here. Tyus Jones could move to the starting unit. That's not impossible. Josh Okogie could move to the starting unit. If either of those guys move in, which are the 2 most likely scenarios, I think, although you could see some really weird shit with Wiggins moves to the 2 and Tolliver starts at the 3. This is the news I'm really hoping to see because, well, I'll find that pretty damn interesting if that's how it happens. But regardless, this will probably portend already the starters were going to be the best players on the night already. They probably were going to play 29 or 30 minutes, and that's probably more than the starters on every other team in every other game, and they're in the faster game, so you already were big fans of Taj and Wiggins and Rose when he was playing, and Teague and Towns and whomever I missed there, but I think I got all 5 of them. But yeah, so looking at the news, it'll be interesting who gets the start. I have projected that they just give some minutes to Luol Deng and everyone else gets bumped up. Even Wiggins. Yes, Wiggins has an upside. I know it is hard to believe, and he frequently misses that upside. What's the other wing's name? He's so solid, better than Okogie. I think Okogie is better if you're looking at someone to play more up at the 2, so I gave him more minutes. We were talking about Keita Bates-Diop is the other guy there. So yeah, Towns loving anything. Teague loving anything. Taj, you know, ends up sort of being a must-play on FanDuel. FanDuel has this weird thing where you can only play 5 Timberwolves, so there's this weird pricing disparity of crap. I either have to play bad power forwards or bad Wolves because I really don't want to necessarily play, you know, Tolliver and Taj Gibson, who aren't the most upside guys on that team. Got to score 20 real points to get 25 fantasy points for Wiggins. Wiggins had a game last year where he scored 28 real points and had less than 28 fantasy points. He does that stuff. How's Gary Trent looking? He's not looking good at all. He's playing the best defensive team in the world, and he's going to play 12 to 15 minutes probably. He got 20 minutes one game. Last game, I think he dropped down to like 12 or something. No. Grayson Allen you could do, so we'll get back there. Only 4 players from one team on FanDuel. I really thought it was 5. Is it 4? Well, either way, max that fucking number. Right, so a lot of this is just the projections, which I gotta leave something for the paying customers. Can confirm 4 on FanDuel. There you go. I don't know if I had sports confused or whatever, but there it is. I don't actually get to save and play the lineups anymore, so that explains. So yeah, Karl-Anthony Towns, anything. Teague, anything. Wiggins, obviously more tournamenty because he's Andrew Wiggins. He could be playing 1-on-0 and find a way not to, you know, perform. Tyus Jones, anything. Taj Gibson, anything. You know, Gorgie Dieng for value. I prefer Josh Okogie for Keita Bates-Diop just because he plays up a little more as far as the numbers go in the rotation. I think that portends more minutes, which is enough for me to like there. And again, I may adjust this news when we find out a little more. Would you choose Grayson Allen over Kent? Kent. I'm trying to figure out who, in the form of your question, Kent is. Maybe I'm somehow having a mind block of a player in this evening's games named Kent. Would you choose Grayson Allen over Kent? I think that was just a porn bot repeating you there. I don't know who Kent is for the purpose of your question. Maybe you're trying to do Keita? So let me look at the power forward on FanDuel, which people are looking at. There is no player named Kent in tonight's pool. Trent, maybe? Is that who we're looking for? We're looking for Gary Trent? I don't know. That's a pretty big difference. That's a whole 1 letter less. Usually if you mistype something, you're at least even, I don't know. Maybe he's autocorrected. Also, Trent wouldn't autocorrect. Anyway, so the point was, you know, power forward on FanDuel, what do you do? So if you're going to not play Taj because you want to play 4 other Timberwolves, you have to play 2 other power forwards. Derek Favors is going to play the least minutes of the Jazz starters because he always does. It's just the sacrifice they make at his position. He shares with Crowder and a number of other guys. Their starting power forward position just isn't good for that many minutes. They go small, etc. But he's certainly playable 5,900, and that's, you know, just gross points, probably the guy you're most comfortable with. Again, there's a lot of value today, so there isn't much of a salary cap. So playing Anthony Tolliver over Taj Gibson, if we don't get news that he randomly moves up and starts, which is possible. You could see Tolliver, Taj, Towns, Wiggins, Teague as starting. That's a lot of T's, but that could happen. You could play John Henson in a tournament. I wouldn't. I think he plays 10 or 12 minutes. You could play Caleb Swanigan in a tournament. I wouldn't. I think he plays 10 or 12 minutes. Don't play Cameron Oliver. I don't think he plays at all. Don't play Tyler Cavanaugh. He might play a few minutes, played like 5 minutes last game. I think I completely removed him from the rotation. No, Giannis is a small forward on FanDuel. Christian Wood, I think, is again 8 or 10 minutes, and Georges Niang is again 8 minutes or out of the rotation. So, yeah, I think you need to play Favors and Gibson, or Favors and Tolliver are really the only plays I want to do. Like, Henson can get there. He can be a, point per minute monster. He can get a lot of blocks. Blocks are 3 on FanDuel. But, yeah, you don't want to play Taj, but I think you have to. Grayson Allen over Trent is what you meant. I think Grayson Allen is just a better play than Trent. I think Grayson Allen plays 18 minutes tonight, and Gary Trent plays 12. So, yes, if they played the same amount of minutes, it'd be closer. But I still think I'm taking Grayson Allen, who's going to pick up better defensive stats and stuff. DraftKings would be much closer. FanDuel, not so much. Top plays are Karl Anthony Towns and Giannis. It's a 2-game slate, guys. I will be as sexy as I can. But so if this was regular season, you would punt power forward because of the new scoring. We'll get into that at some point in the future, but I might still punt shooting guard. See, power forwards, as we discovered the other night playing the TJ Leaf game, just sort of have a natural floor because they get X rebounds. Shooting guards can just do nothing. Like, there's Donovan Mitchell tonight if you want to spend your money there, and CJ McCollum might do something, but, we're not going to change roster construction much because of the FanDuel rules change. You should play at least one minimum price guy. How often were you not playing one minimum price or within a couple $100 of minimum price guy? It will change on those days. Okogie starting? Nailed it. Yeah, so I bumped him up a lot. I like him on FanDuel. He's 3,500. On DraftKings, he is, I don't know, but I will look. I think 44 off the top of my head. Let's go look. 44. Got it. He's fine to play. There are arguments you can make. I'm curious if the interesting... I don't like Henson. I love Henson as part of Team Wind Farm. Team has 37 miles in arm length, but, he played 10 minutes last game. I don't see any huge reason for that to increase massively. Again, McCurr isn't there, but they got a lot of bigs there to throw minutes around. Maybe he gets to 15, but where there isn't, you could play Henson in a tournament on FanDuel, but you'd have to really want it. The odds on him, he's got to outscore, basically just raw outscore. I would rather play Tolliver than him, so he's got to get on top of two of Tolliver and Taj and Favors. The messages, they are flying in here. Thoughts on Brolo? He played 15 minutes last game. You can argue McCurr out, Brolo comes up. So I think Brolo is a strong tournament play because he's a guy from that game who does have an upside he can reach that isn't going to be high owned. So yeah, I think Brolo is a strong tournament play. Grayson versus Okogie is the real question. Yes, it is. I will play Okogie basically every time. You can play them both on FanDuel, and that might be your best shooting guard combination. But I have Okogie for 28 minutes. I have Grayson Allen for 20. So, did I break down the Portland-Utah game? Not really, but I could do it in about 5 seconds saying just don't play it. All right, so that's a bit of an exaggeration. So the Jazz have one more game after this. They play Sacramento on Thursday. The Trailblazers have this game and then 2 more. So the Trailblazers are the real stains here. Let's talk about the Trailblazers for a shit and hope that at some point my wife shuts up the fucking dog. You think? Or just shoot him. I mean, he's old. He's had a good life. Do it painlessly. Sorry, what was I saying? So, yeah, so the Trailblazers last game played, I believe it was 19 guys, with Mo Harkless sitting only due to injury. And Mo Harkless is back today. Evan Turner might be out. I projected Evan Turner to have minutes and Mo Harkless to be out, and I did the most friendly minutes I could by removing Gary Payton II, Chinanu Anuaku, and Cameron Oliver from the rotation, hoping that maybe they might only play those 16 guys. I'm not sure about that. And again, they have 2 more games. Most of these teams have 1 more game, or 2 of them do. So, and again, they're playing Utah. So you can certainly make an argument for Damian Lillard. So starters last game, Again, Mo Harkless was out. I expect him back. I think he probably starts. Evan Turner is probably going to be out. I see no reason to push him in the preseason with 2 more games to go. He's got a shoulder issue, I think it is. So I think Mo Harkless returns to the starting lineup, which bumps Jake Layman back to the reserves. Last game, the 4 non-Jake Layman starters played 20 to 22 minutes. I, again, tonight being as optimistic as I could, bump that up to 24, 25. I'll be surprised if it's much more than that. Again, it'd be great to get some Gary Stotts news, but since there is not much of a cap due to there being really good value, is Nurkic okay? You can play Yusuf Nurkic in a tournament, but again, Utah, Gobert, there's not a lot of things here where you're like, oh, what a great spot for Yusuf Nurkic. Let me look specifically at his price to see how, there is not much of a cap on FanDuel on DK. I liked Nurkic last game, and he was good in a points per minute thing, but again, played 20 minutes. So, yes, you can play Yusuf Nurkic in a tournament. I would be surprised if he was gross scoring anywhere near, a Kogi. Let me check on a couple things. It's been a while, but let me get into my database and check some head-to-head action between Nurkic and Gobert, because they'll certainly... Why so high in the Timberwolves? Is there confirmation they will play at least 3 quarters? They have the last 2 games, and it's Tom Thibodeau who runs the starters into the ground every day, and they're missing a starter. It would be very strange for me in the 3rd of their 4 preseason games for them to revert. What's a DFS? DFS is Daily Fantasy Sports. Portland might play 15 or 17 guys. Yes, I would be surprised. I'd put the number right in there. Jeff or Bledsoe on FanDuel. Jeff is your cash option. I'm going to take the Timberwolf over the other guy. Basically every 50-50 you can ask me at this point. Like if you're playing a Portland guy or a Buck or a Utah guy, you're banking on the minutes being tighter than I expect. Teague or Bledsoe on FanDuel. I'll take Teague again. When is the Jazz game? 9 o'clock, 1 hour after the starting game. What cheap guys are in play? Josh Okogie, Grayson Allen. On DK, I think you can be sort of silly and play Mo Harkless if you wanna spice up your life a little bit. Keita Bates Diop would be in play in tournaments. Tyus Jones. So I think there's really anyone in the second game I want to play other than Grayson. So yeah, talking about the second game again, I'm not sure how many guys they run, but they also have just the worst matchup ever. So there's a very real chance again that none of the Trailblazers are good. If you told me you have to play a Trailblazer in GPPs, it would be Nurkic, it would be Lillard, it would be Mo Harkless at $4,000 at the minimum. Maybe he comes back, starts and plays 21 minutes, has a good game and does stuff. After that, Zach Collins, I guess, would be my next on that list. Crowder. Is the Jazz game being played in Salt Lake? No, it's being played in Portland, but they are at the Moda Center. So 2 games tonight, Portland and Iowa. Just in case you were curious. They're playing that first game in Iowa. You don't like Gobert? He doesn't play for... Like, I think Gobert is one of the... So let's talk about the Jazz. Yeah, I like Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is obviously a guy who always has an upside. The matchup is not good either. Portland is not a fast team. Portland is not a bad defensive team. And again, of the other starters I can look at, I would probably rather take a tournament chance on a lower-owned Brook Lopez. Be close, but I'm sort of all over Karl Anthony Towns. But if you want to move off of Towns, yeah, Gobert is your second or third best option there, really, coming after Nurkic and maybe Brolo, who I'd project for a lot less. But with Thon McCurr out, maybe get 22 minutes of Brolo, maybe get 30 fantasy points. Gobert hasn't played since Tuesday. He should be well rested. Well, he's going to be well rested. Yeah, he sat the game versus Perth or whatever. But I do think they practiced yesterday. Pretty sure they practiced yesterday. But practices, by the way, are sometimes harder than games. Just for what it's worth. People say that a lot. Like, this guy hasn't, he's been resting for a week. He might have had 5 practices in that week, and that's not terribly fun either. Jingles or Wiggins on DK. See, that's close. I still think I would play Wiggins in cash, as strange as that sounds. But again, if you know, I have no issue with you moving to Jingles. I have them projected almost identically, I'm pretty sure. Tolliver or Favors? Yeah, I mean, I think Tolliver now I would project for more minutes than Favors, but Favors still a, you know, a better player and a slightly higher option there, but they would project pretty similarly. You know, it ends up being a little site dependent on what else it does to your lineup, but you're probably saving some money by going with Tolliver. So I think Tolliver makes some sense now. I really thought there was a chance they'd start and go huge. DiVincenzo, Burks, or Grayson Allen? I'm fine with Grayson Allen. DiVincenzo's around the GPP line for me. Same thing with Burks. Like, I expect Burks and DiVincenzo to play 18 to 22 minutes. I'd be surprised, you know, if they got outside of those margins. But Niang or Favors on FanDuel? Favors. That was easy. Let me ask the right questions. FastEddieFear, since you can only play 5 Minnesota guys on DK, which ones should we prioritize? Okay. Teague, Karl Anthony Towns. See, DK makes it interesting because the different positionality. But Teague and Karl Anthony Towns are your 1 and your 2. You know, you can move off them in tournaments. Neither of them are locks to have a good game. Teague has shown repeatedly that he can play 28 minutes and get 17 fantasy points. But he profiles the best as far as just like sticking up some real points. Those are the first 2 guys I'm looking at. And then I probably want to get like a Kogi just so I have more money so I can get Giannis. Do I like Ingles? I think Ingles is a GPP pivot off people in the first game. I would rather play Bledsoe. I would rather play Middleton. I would rather play, you know, Teague, obviously. I'm fine playing Ingles over Wiggins. But again, that game is just much slower and has competent defenses. Over under 2.5 blocks for Gobert. That's about the right number. You know, looking in my notes of the previous games he played against Nurk, he had 2 blocks, 4 blocks, and 1 block, and 3 blocks, and so he was all around it. But I'll say 2.5 is about the right line there. Let's look at some other questions. 17 minutes to go. Niang thoughts? I don't want to play him. I'm not sure he plays. Like, if Niang just completely fell out of the rotation at this point, I wouldn't be surprised. And again, let me point something out here. I'm looking, and hopefully we get news in the next 17 minutes, but we don't know what the hell's going on with these teams. So, over or under? I'll take the under. I guess 2 blocks is a little more likely than 3 blocks, but I think it's a good line there. Thoughts on Rubio? Again, perfectly reasonable tournament pivot. Has had some real success against Lillard in the past. I think there's a real chance those starters get 26, 28 minutes this game, so I don't really have an issue with you playing. Like, I would much rather play Jazz than... For most positions, you're really going to end up in... And at point guard, it's pretty similar. You have Teague being the best to me, Bledsoe being the best tournament pivot, and then Rubio being a perfectly viable tournament pivot I find slightly less compelling than Bledsoe due to pace and minutes and other concerns. Now, one of the nice things about playing one of those guys instead of Teague is you've opened up a Timberwolves slot if that's relevant on, say, FanDuel. Jang and Middleton or Bledsoe and Taj? I'll go Bledsoe and Taj. I think they continue to escalate Karl Anthony Towns minutes. Last game he got 29, and Jang is just his backup, so Jang got 19 at most. I don't remember if a third guy got in there. What power forwards can be used today? It depends what site you're talking about, so you got to clarify for me. Tyus or Okogie? Yeah, probably... I would like Tyus a little more in tournaments for being lower owned. Best power forward play on FanDuel is Taj Gibson by a considerable margin. Like, if you minute projected them out, he'd be like 5 more than Favors, who would be 5 more than Tolliver, who would be like 5 more than Henson. I mean, it goes downhill fast. Will McCollum have more field goals or turnovers tonight versus the stingy Jazz defense? That's a good question. I'll go with field goals. But Bledsoe, Teague, Lillard, Rubio, favorite 2 worst. Just production, not ownership. I will take Teague. I'll take Teague, Bledsoe, Rubio, Lillard, or the order in which I like those guys. You know, Lillard's going to be my worst because I would project him for the fewest minutes. There's a chance he gets towards the other guys, but probably the least. And he's got to play the Jazz, which is also slow as fuck. Like, Thoughts on Donovan Mitchell? The awesome tournament play. Same thing. I would rather play Jazz than Trailblazers. Rather play Donovan Mitchell than CJ McCollum. Tyus or Rubio? Raw points, I'll take Rubio. So if price is no issue, Ricky. And like if you're building FanDuel is probably the reason you would ask that question, then yeah, Ricky for me. Henson is not going to get 12 minutes, makes 0 sense. I don't understand what that means. Please clarify your comment. Jazz going to get some run tonight. I mean, I condensed their rotation a little bit versus their last game, thinking that it improves whether or not you count their Aussie game, their other game. Swanigan, the only power forward to see mins at a 3,500 on FanDuel. I think Tolliver is still 3,500 on FanDuel, isn't he? Ingles, Aminu, Favors, or Gorgie, DK can do Wiggins too. Higgins, Aminu, Favors, or Gorgie on DK can do Wiggins too. Probably Ingles. I mean, I have Ingles and Wiggins almost exactly the same. So probably Ingles for what might be lower ownership. I don't have a problem if you do Aminu or Favors or Gorgie, but the minutes there are a little bit less. I would do Aminu less of those guys. I would probably do Rubio over all of them if he's in there. Baz and Shabazz going to get run. I did have him cracking the rotation. I think I projected Muhammad for 15 minutes. Oh, you meant Baz, not Jazz. You meant Shabazz Muhammad. I got you. Okogie or DiVincenzo, that's just going to be Okogie for me. Like, I think he's good for 7 or 8 more minutes. It's nice that some guys are out there, but also Sterling Brown is back, even though Wilson is not. So that's a minutes thing there. But, you know, maybe DiVincenzo gets 24, but I think Okogie just gets more. Why Taj? He has had an awful preseason. They're talking about power forward on FanDuel, where there are no good power forwards. I mean, Taj is easily the best power forward on FanDuel. If you think he has a really bad game, he gets 0.7 fantasy points a minute. I think he plays 28 minutes, so that's 19.6. That's very possibly the best of all those guys. You love DiVincenzo's game. So do I. He shot like poop last game. But somebody said Henson is not going to play 12 minutes, makes 0 sense. And I'm really curious if they mean he will get more or he'll get less. Like, he got 10 last game. Your theory is, I presume, that he backs up Brolo, who doesn't get a minutes increase and sees more time because McCurr is out. I guess I'm guessing that is his theory, and that the guy gets a bit more. Wiggins or Middleton? Just Middleton there. That's enough of a difference. Allen or DiVincenzo? Yeah, I think Grayson is a little bit safer, but I would have those guys about the same, and you'll get DiVincenzo at a lower ownership, so I'd be more inclined towards Dante there. DiVincenzo, Grayson, Burks, favorite to worst on FanDuel. In tournaments, for me, it's probably DiVincenzo, then Grayson, then Burks. It's the order I would want to play those 3 guys. What odds will you give me that Henson outsources Gibson? I tempted as I am, but I don't have time for this. His point is, I think that there could be Ilya and Maker out means Bucks get big minutes for the big. So let's go relook at the Milwaukee Bucks, because I think your point is well taken. I'm going to look at my minutes projections and see where I had the minutes for the Bucks bigs going, because I actually ran a full rotation and obviously had them going small a little bit. And Giannis plays the 4, but I have him there and him there. I just have them, it ends up going small a lot and giving minutes there, and I still have Christian Wood in the rotation. But I think it's a fair guess that John Henson does get more minutes than I originally projected him for. I think Brolo picks up some. I think Henson obviously only plays the 5. I think Christian Wood also plays the 5 some, but I think you're probably looking at closer to 17 minutes or something for John Henson at the center. So good point. I appreciate you helping me there when I made the adjustments to move some of the other guys. I didn't redo the center position very well. So thank you. Quotes. Did Eddie just take an L on Henson? I take an L all the time. Guys, there's whatever 140 guys, and I'm running around doing 6 things and projecting a lot of stuff, and occasionally you don't round all the edges, and I want people to give feedback. And only like a completely prideful fool is like, no, I am never wrong. So yeah, I think the minutes projection I have there for Henson is too low, and I appreciate him bringing it to my attention. 25 minutes for Donovan Mitchell, that's what I have, give or take a minute. That is right about exactly what I had. I will look. I have 26. But yeah. Why the lack of Bucks players? Your thoughts on Shabazz? I just think they still run a fairly even lineup. That's what they did last time. I just am not that condensed. And again, the Bucks still have 2 more games after this one. So I think they're still in sort of the looking at guys stage of the preseason for them. They play the Thunder and then come back and play the Wolves again. So they even have another opportunity to play the Wolves in the preseason and throw more time at the starters. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just guessing they keep it a little more spread out. But I have no official news on that. You keep misreading words, get closer to the phone. Yeah, getting old and staring at a computer 19 hours a day is not good for your eyes. Seems like the night when all the fish play the guys in the second game and they end up playing 30 minutes. Might be. I mean, that's happened to us where just really strange things happen, but like, I still don't know how many of the guys I want from the second game. It's a much slower game and 2 much better defenses. So let's assume I'm wrong, and the Jams and the Trailblazers play everyone 29 minutes for the starters. I'm still don't feel like I'm far behind just stacking the shit out of the Minnesota game. That's a fair point. Burks, Tyus, Tolliver, Allen, DK, GPP. I think it's possible all those guys play 3 quarters. I think it's possible those guys play 3 quarters too. I expect most of them to play 3 quarters, but 3 quarters when you're running kind of deep lineups is like 24, 25, 26 minutes. It's not 30. And, you know, last game, the Wolves starters got 29, 28, 28, 28, 27 or something like that. Post-lock stream tonight. I'll probably do a review, but probably just look at ownership and bail out of here tonight. Top 4 Wolves regardless of salary. I think you have to play Taj even if he wouldn't be in my top 4 projections, so it's probably... I think the 4 I'd be most inclined towards playing would be Teague, Towns, Gibson, Okogie. I don't have a problem if you want to replace anyone really but Towns. It would require something pretty weird for me to take Towns out, but because we want to play so many Wolves, one of the nice things about turning Towns into Gobert or Nurkic... I was going to say John Henson, but he's not a center on FanDuel. But one of the things about making that pivot is it opens up another Wolf somewhere, and conceivably some more value, because now you can play Tyus and Okogie, for example, so it's very interesting. Utah got scorched by point guards last season. Anything change? They got scorched by some point guards. Point guards were the most effective position against them. That's certainly fair to say. You know, Westbrook had a couple massive games there, but still, point guards versus Utah was a well worse than average matchup for point guards. So in that scenario, I'm playing like 3 or 4 Wolves, 2 or 3 Bucks, and 1-1, hoping to bink the good 26 minutes. I think that's fine. They got killed by Lillard a few times. Yeah, they do get spanked by opposing point guards sometimes. They were randomly good against Curry. It's somewhat difficult to track. But it's worth pointing out that the entire team is going to be even better defensively this year because they expurgated from the collective any of the guys who weren't good at defense. So their worst 2 defenders last year were Rodney Hood and Joe Johnson. They're both out of town for exactly that reason. Minnesota loves running their starters into the ground, including, yeah, we already talked about that. Chad, help me out. Hopefully that's not too dumb. Brogdon or Lopez? Yeah, I would probably play Lopez in a tournament. Neither of them probably make cash, and Lopez has a better upside. You lost a quarter on NFL today. Let's get that money. I like Tolliver or Taj, higher ceiling. Probably Taj. Well, Tolliver randomly played, I want to say it was 31 minutes in the first preseason game. And if we think that randomly happens, and Taj does play the 3 and the 4 technically. He's a little out of place at the 3, but they've done it. So it's interesting. It'd be close between those two because Tolliver a little better at defensive stats. Tolliver a better 3-point shooter. It's close. How about Jake Lemon? Played 11 minutes last game. I don't think much changes with Evan Turner coming back, with Evan Turner going out and Mo Harkless coming back. So I would still think around there. How do you play Lillard over Giannis or K? You don't. I like Crowder a good amount. I think he plays 20 or 24 minutes. Second unit can pick up a 10, 6, 4, 2, 1 kind of game if he's active. Yeah, I have absolutely no issue with you playing Crowder in a tournament for that reason. That's fine. Utah rest. They rested Gobert in their last game, which was against Perth, I believe. I may be getting my Aussie teams confused, but against one of the foreign teams. They may very possibly rest no one. I haven't seen any news of that. DK utility, 4,800 and under. Tolliver, Tyus. I think I like Tyus a little bit more with what we can presume some sort of guard minutes opening up there. Thoughts on Bates Diop? Yeah, I'm fine with Bates Diop as he's a tournament option because he's not in your best X. Well, it depends. If you're talking on DK, yeah, he's just a tournament guy, but he's absolutely fine. I think I projected his minutes up quite a bit. Again, the question is what they're going to do. They run a 10-man rotation. 5 guys behind him. These guys go out, these go in. There's just a guy for a guy. They have, Tyus Jones directly behind Jeff Teague, Gorgie Jang directly behind Karl Anthony Towns, etc. Taj Gibson, Tolliver normally directly behind them. Now, a guy is missing. Derrick Rose is missing as a starter. Okay, they took his backup and made him the starter. Who fills that 10th hole? It could be James Nunnally. It could be one of the random guys from the bench. What I guessed was that they move everyone up a little bit. Gorgie Jang picks up not Gorgie Jang. Luol Deng picks up 6 minutes, I think I projected him for, and everyone else just plays more. That's my best guess because that's what he more frequently does during the regular season. He just shrinks down the rotation. But that's what I got. 3 minutes. We are coming down to it, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have a confirmed Wolves lineup? I haven't seen a tweet. We've heard Okogie starting, so that's a very good point. I'll load up my tweet deck. Normally you guys are my eyes and ears, but just to see if I can find something a couple seconds earlier, and it obviously is some interval for you to transmit information to me and for me to then announce it. So I am scanning. I apologize for the less entertaining show as I checked news. Who do you have for top point guards? Teague, Lillard, Rubio. Tyus is an interesting tournament play there. Bledsoe, obviously. Nothing real surprising. Just got it. Just got what? The joke? All right, Timberwolves starters: Teague, Okogie, Wiggins, Gibson, and Towns. Yes, that was to be expected. Thank you, Eisenberg. 6.9 DK utility. You have Teague already. Is it Gobert? Yeah, I think Gobert is a very solid choice, especially coming off rest. So there we are. Hopefully it goes well again today. Yeah, it's one of those days where I don't want to force it. There's a lot of people who I think are forcing it a bit. Apparently my advice is I want to overweight the field on Minnesota. I appreciate the correction on John Henson. I do think he has to get more minutes than I thought him for. I would still take under 20. But I would give you I'd give you 2-1 on Henson outscoring Gibson. I think it's likely, but it's still an NBA game, so I think 67% of the time Taj gets there instead of him. But that was a good question, and I always enjoy refining my process. So whenever you think I have something wrong, please do not hesitate to correct me. And again, there's only one of me and a few hundred of you. So who do I have projected around DiVincenzo? Do you mean who do I have projected to score approximately the same number of points as him, or to be on the court next to him? Or I do not understand quite the nature of your query. Please restate. Hi. Brolo or Taj? Yeah, Taj and Cash. Brolo in a tournament is fine. Brolo may play 15 minutes, but I have to think it would have to come up. I'm fine, thank you. Fading Teague for Rubio. Okay. It's a 2-game slate. Teague is, in my opinion, a better play because of the peripherals around the game. He's obviously going to be higher owned, or I'd be really surprised if he wasn't higher owned. I'll tell you in 60 seconds. But he's not a vastly better play, and so it's really got to do whether or not Teague is 44% or 33%, and whether or not Rubio is 28 or 21. I mean, the math is going to be roughly proportionately fair regardless. Tyus or Grayson? Probably Tyus for me, assuming it isn't a team stacking issue, and you're probably on DK where it isn't. Bledsoe, Jones, go of pair. let me tell you, like, transcribing the Periscope comments never ceases to not be a little exciting. Good pair? I bet you were going for good pair. G-O space O-F. I bet it was supposed to be, are they a good pair? Yes, that's a fine pair for tournaments. Good pair. I did get it. There you go. Look at that. It's like learning a new language. And we've really got 0 Utah and Portland news. Mike D'Antoni says he's going to be fine. Okay, that is lock. Although, if you have any open spots for the second game, I really think the one DK lineup that I built and was tinkering with did not have, I don't think had a player in the second game. I really ran 6 and 2, and I was back and forth between 6 and 2 and 7 and 1. You just have one very bad defensive team, one below average defensive team playing massively faster with similar minutes on one team and vastly better ones on the other. Is Cat the best GPP option? I mean, he's not really GPPs. He's going to be pretty popular tonight. It's going to be hard to get away from meow meow there. Some ownerships just at this first lineup I'm looking at. Wiggins 32, Giannis 86, Taj 20. I'm pretty excited about Taj 20. Towns only 70. Nice. Okogie 32, Keita Bates Diop 16, Jeff Teague 40. It's right where I said. Remember I said it depends whether or not Teague is going to be 44 or 36 or something. It's right in that range I predicted. I used my good predictitude. Bledsoe 38. That's about where he should be. Giannis 86 is pretty damn funny. Derrick Rose 3. I was fiddling with that 6-2 lineup, but went with 1 to 3 guys in the lake, and that's fine. It's not, you know, all right, so basically this is it. Whenever you make any sort of GPP pivot, you are banking on it being worth it, and that the ownership reduces substantially enough that it is worth making what is usually a worse statistical play. And I don't think the crowd in general is appropriately enough off the last game as opposed to the first game, because they're missing some news about how deep those lineups have been as opposed to the Timberwolves and how different the pace is. So I don't think there's enough juice for the squeeze there. I don't think going to the guys in the second game gets me enough, because I think enough people are incorrectly already playing the second game. If I thought people were going to play 8% Damian Lillard, then I'd be like, okay, I will take 8% Damian Lillard. If I thought people were going to play 5% CJ McCollum, all right, I would go there. But I don't think those numbers are right. I think they're still like 30% Damian Lillard. At that point, I don't want to ride with that team. I would rather avoid that team. So, ownership, the top 5 guys are the Wolves starters. Well done. It is Antetokounmpo at 80. What am I talking about? Excuse me. Giannis. Maybe he doesn't play for the Wolves. Antetokounmpo is number 1 at 86%. Towns is number 2 at 70. Teague is number 3 at 40. Bledsoe is, it's not even close to that. I just read the wrong list. I read like opponents. I don't know what I did there. But anyhow, Bledsoe is 4th at 38, which is fine. Coming off a big game and a really nice matchup for him. I think that's good. Okogie is 33. Wiggins is 32. Middleton is 28. Tyus is 23. Tolliver is 23. Taj is only 20, which is fair. It doesn't have a massive upside. Keita Bates Diop is 16. Brogdon is 14. Gorgie is 10.5. Dante is 10.5. A little higher than I would have thought. Your boy Brook Lopez is 9. That's exciting. Henson is 6. That's exciting. Ersan Ilyasova is 4. Thanks. Derrick Rose is 3. You shouldn't have. Christian Wood at 2. Thon McCurr at 2. Stop. Tony Snell at 1, which regardless of who is out is now you're having fun. Sterling Brown 0.34, Luol Deng 0.24, DJ Wilson 0.17, Jimmy Butler 0.14. Someone really hasn't looked at the news in a while. Jazz starter's going to get good run. Looking at Tony Jones' tweet, I don't know what you're referring to, but I imagine I'm about to see it in my We do have news for the second game. Harkless is limited and Turner is out. Well, they said Harkless is limited? I didn't know that. Henson is 60% on FanDuel. You feel vindicated. You shouldn't feel vindicated. You already won. You feel vindicated when like you lose. Forget it. But yeah, that's a big number there. looking at Tony Jones' tweets. I'm scanning Twitter for the exact tweet you're referring to. Someone said, "Hey Tony, I know it's Sunday, so football reigns supreme, but I was wondering if you had any idea how the Jazz are going to treat this game in terms of minutes for starters, who's going to get run, etc." Tony Jones said, "I'd be shocked if they didn't treat it like a real game. First road game, just 2 preseason road games left. One of them is against the Kings, and yeah, okay." Well, I disagree with Tony Jones. It's worth pointing out there are many beat reporters in the world who, when you ask an opinion, aren't good at giving an opinion. Which is fine. Their job is to report, not necessarily to cogitate and come up with something. But I don't think they treat it like a real game. I'll take whatever money you want. You can take the minutes they have tonight and compare them to their average minutes during the regular season. The Jazz will come in under that. Maybe it's closer. And again, I did bump them up. From their last game, I removed 3 people entirely from the rotation who barely played any minutes, and took most of those minutes and focused them onto the starters. And so I had the, I mean, we're started now. So I had the Jazz starters at Mitchell 26, Gobert 27, Rubio 26, Ingles 26, Favors 22. I think those are good guesses. But during the regular season, those first 4 guys are all going to be around 30-ish to 32, and I don't think you see that tonight. But I will tell you if Tony or I am correct soon. I posted that Portland news 45 minutes ago. I did not see. It said Mo Harkless was. I mean, I prognosticated and said at the beginning of the show I seriously doubt they play Evan Turner, so I assumed he was out the whole time. So that wasn't news to me. I thought Mo Harkless would play, so that wasn't news to me. And it says he'll have his minutes limited. That's exactly what I projected. I said I thought he would start, and I projected him for I think 16 minutes, or some minutes in the teens. So I did manage to miss a piece of news, which I absolutely hate. But thankfully, my guess was exactly correct. So there you go. Layman possibly getting guarded by Crowder. Can Jake take a punch? I'm not playing Jake Layman against the Jazz. That's insanity. He played 11 minutes last game, and he started. What do you foresee happening here where all of a sudden, like, is there a 1% chance he can get there? Yeah, obviously, he's playing on the court. Other people can get hurt or in foul trouble, but taking shots at Jake Layman strikes me as insane. I don't think he's even close to in play. Oh, there's someone in one of the other chats going like, I kept asking about Jake Layman, why doesn't he answer? And it's, hey, I didn't see the question. For that, I apologize. It's very frustrating to have to ask the same question over and over again, so I give you my apologies. But, yeah, I think I would be very surprised if he got 16 minutes. But let's say he gets 20. How much does Jake Layman get in 20 minutes against the Jazz? So that is that. Projected minutes for Tolliver, 26. I've definitely bumped him. I bumped everyone. I will be curious to see who comes in for Okogie, or whether or not they just do earlier cycles and bring guys back in like I sort of guessed. But again, I have them playing a 9-man rotation plus 6 minutes of Luol Deng is what I ended up projecting. I'm curious how that works. Projected minutes for Tolliver, 24. Is college basketball DFS going to return? No idea. Mitchell, Ingles, or CJ Wiggins? Probably CJ Wiggins. I don't feel great about it, but taking 2 Jazz guys in that game makes me feel kind of bad. Suggest going heavy Jazz in the showdown. Off the top of my head, we'll get some news. Maybe either Stotts or Snyder will come out and say, yeah, we're going to treat this more like a, right now we have one beat reporter guessing that they will because they have only 2 games left, which is more than basically everyone. Mitchell, Ingles, in your opinion? Okay. We will certainly see. I'm not a fan of either of those pairings, but I, again, think you take bits of the Jazz and the Trailblazers at best. So I don't want to take 2 of the most expensive guys on the Jazz next to each other and not run it back presumably then with any Trailblazers. But there's nothing wrong with Mitchell Ingles. I slightly prefer the other one. Tasty 6-gamer tomorrow. Oh, I gotta get to work. All right. All right, well, I guess we will call it. CJ McCollum floor is so scary, not just tonight, but in general. Yeah, McCollum just disappears sometimes, and really rarely hits massive ceiling. Even sometimes when Lillard is out, you just don't get the big CJ game that you'd like to see. So, Bucks versus T-Wolves, over or under? I'll take the under. Barely, but I'll take the under the 224 or whatever it was. Thoughts on Elfrid Payton this year? I like him a lot. He shaved that thing off his head. That was very helpful. And that New Orleans team plays at a wicked pace, so it should be the best counting stat year of his career. You know, we'll have to see how efficient that team actually functions. Post-late stream or see you tomorrow. I will come back and do a review, which will be earlier tonight, because the game started earlier. So I'll probably be on, I would think, about 11 p.m. talking about these games. Lillard is out tonight? Not to my knowledge, no. Rubio Gobert or Ingles Mitchell? I'm probably playing Rubio Gobert over Ingles Mitchell's as well, just because I think there's a slightly better correlation assist-wise, and they're both sort of more upsidey guys and a little more likely to get steal and block than the other pairing, so I will slightly go with that one. So that is it. I'm going to take off. It has been my pleasure as always. Bonne chance, mes amis. I shall see you on the flip side.